Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Classic X-Men number 12, cover dated August 1987. So what I'm interested in for this particular review is the backup story of Fire in the Night by Chris Claremont and John Bolton, which explores secrets from Magneto's tragic past. Now the cover here is worth mention. The main story, it's a reprint of issue 104 of Uncanny X-Men. And this is a homage cover by Art Adams and Al Williamson. And the homage, of course, is to X-Men number 1, the cover by Jack Kirby and Sol Brodsky. So pretty cool this. And of course, the only two characters still on the cover from issue number 1 are Magneto himself and Cyclops, and everyone else is new from the all new, all different X-Men introduced in Giant Size X-Men number 1. So let's open this one up to the credits page here, and you'll see a nice inner image of Magneto in his costume there, just by Art Adams, dated March 1987. And the credits for the backup story, so Chris Claremont writer, John Bolton artist and inker, and we have letterers. The letterer is Tom Orzechowski and the colorist Glynis Oliver. And we have that reference here, front cover Arthur Adams and Al Williamson, based on the cover of the X-Men number 1 by Jack Kirby and Sol Brodsky. There is also a back cover here, which is related to the backup story. So this is by John Bolton, featuring Magneto and a woman and child that he rescues. So let's open it up to the backstory, and here we go. Just make sure that is nice and centered. Okay, so one of the things that I like about Claremont's style at this period is whenever the story brings you to a particular location, the narrative captions give you a nice little potted background on the location, on aspects of its history and culture. And so it is with this one, because the story here begins in Paris, city of light and love, its beauty and diversity celebrated by couples strolling the Champs-Élysées, friends arguing politics, art, philosophy, sports, anything and everything in left bank, bistros and jazz clubs, while tourists gawk at the late night sights. And here we've got the Arc de Triomphe, and then we shift focus in the second panel to a hotel not far from all that activity at 45 Boulevard Raspail. Hard by the Sèvres Babylon metro stands the Hotel Lutetia Concord, and within a man feared and hated across the globe. Once, long ago, Paris was a dream to him, a sort of heaven on earth, where he and his beloved would celebrate a life rich with joy and infinite possibilities. He should have known better, but in those days he still thought of himself as an ordinary man, content with ordinary hopes and dreams. That is no longer so. Perhaps in truth it never was. And then Stanley presents A Fire in the Night. So here we have our identification of who this man in his bed is, Magneto's helmet, and a newspaper, the International World Tribune. Magneto escapes worldwide manhunt mounted for mutant terrorist. And we have this motif of the ticking clock through the night in this story. So it starts here roughly going on 10 to 2 in the morning, and we see the clock ticking the whole time for the story. Interesting use of color here as well, and I was thinking about this before making the video, the statement here about Paris being city of light, and that is one of the epithets for Paris, but there's no lights on this page, no lights around the Arc de Triomphe or the Champs-Élysées or the hotel itself, so muted colors and a kind of an ambience of night and darkness for what turns out to be an incredibly tragic tale of Magneto's past. So let's continue with the story. Here we go. He is older than he looks as the clock ticks past 2 in the morning. Months ago, yet another plan to achieve world domination had failed miserably, and as a consequence, the master of magnetism found himself transformed into an infant, helpless prisoner of his arch-rival, Professor Charles Xavier. So that's reference to a storyline from Defenders number 15 to 16, written by Len Wein. Then miraculously, another of Xavier's foes, a being who called himself Eric the Red, had, for reasons of his own, restored Magneto to the prime of life, the peak of vitality and strength. And that is revealed in the issue reprinted prior to the backup story, Uncanny X-Men 104. And now we have a shift into Magneto's dream, his nightmare. But that resurrection has an unfortunate price, a flood of memories exploding from a mind as keenly rejuvenated as the body that houses it. As always, the dream begins with Auschwitz and Magda. And just look at the amazing colouring here by Glynis Oliver, really evoking the horror, the violence, the grimness of Auschwitz, of this death camp. Auschwitz built, or rather it was an army barracks that was turned into an extermination camp in 1940 and was liberated by the Soviets in January of 1945. So the events here that Magneto is remembering has to do with probably January 1945. More than 1 million people died in this camp. So I understand it was 1.1 million people. And with World War II ending, the Third Reich defeated, its guards wanted no witnesses left to tell the tale of this horror. And so inmates who survived to 1945 were death marched into Germany, into camps in Germany, before the arrival of the Soviets. He had been here from the start. Now that's interesting. That means he was there from 1940 up to 1945, grown to manhood within its electrified barbed wire fence. If he was to die, it would not be in this abattoir and not without a fight. So there were some inmates, famous inmates, who did survive Auschwitz. And they include, very famously, Viktor Frankl, who wrote the amazing book Man's Search for Meaning, which is an account of his time in Auschwitz and how he survived, and the development then of his theory, logotherapy, that you can survive anything if you have meaning and purpose. An interesting text to read in combination with Magneto's own survival here in the camp. And the narrative caption is written over this scene of this SS guard about to shoot Magda, and then she's rescued as Magneto kills the man with a blunt piece of wood to the back of his head, and you see the blood emerging there. He's probably dead. And then they run. And just this, again, I mentioned the colouring earlier, but I do want to mention something I always mention with Glynis Oliver. It's one of her tropes or motifs, a red background indicating violent action. So tremendous art on this page, spotting of black silhouettes, shadows, also by John Bolton, penciling and inking this art. So back to the story and the ticking clock. He cries out, denying what he cannot escape. Years had blunted the awful powers of those dreams, muted their power, but those years have been swept away by his resurrection as if they'd never been. And these long suppressed memories are suddenly as raw and vivid as if the events they portray had only just occurred. They stagger more than run, their bare feet leaving a bloody trail in the snow, their frail scarecrow bodies giving out all too quickly. And I like this choice here. We've got the narrative caption describing what it takes for them to get to this point, their little campfire in the middle of the snowy woods, because remember, as I said, it's January, it's the middle of winter, and Magda says to Magneto, "They'll find us." "I doubt it," he says. "They'll be too busy trying to save their own skins to waste much effort on us. They probably figure we'll freeze to death or starve." "Are they right?" she asks. "I'm so cold, even sitting close beside the fire, and I couldn't stomach the food you found." "I'll find more," he says. "What's the point? My family, everyone I knew, they all died in the gas chambers, except for me. I don't want to be alone. I want to go with them. You can't give up, Magda. You can't give the Nazis that victory. We live, you and I, that's important. That means something. That matters," he says. "I'm afraid," she says. "I'll protect you for now and always, as I did inside the camp." And he's looking much stronger there than the starved figure he was here in the camp when he rescued Magda from the SS guard. And again, great colouring here. The wan, pale colours indicating and complementing the harshness of the conditions they're surviving in. So they survived the death camp, and now they're trying to survive in the woods too. Truly grim, truly harsh. Something else I want to say about Auschwitz and Magneto is that connection. The fact that Magneto was an inmate of Auschwitz was first established by Claremont in Uncanny X-Men 150. So it goes all the way back to then. But he's developing this backstory for Magneto some years later. So let's continue with the story. And again, we've got the motif of the ticking clock. For a time, they were little better than animals. Yet somehow, sick and hungry as they were, they survived to wander south into the Carpathian mountains, where he found work, so as a lumberjack, and new friends. He's doing some woodworking carpentry there, and a chance to catch up on the life lost in the stench and shadow of the gas chambers, as he's reading here. They learn to laugh, a meal in a village tavern, and then to love. They get married here. And when their daughter Anya was born, they learned contentment. Now, obviously, this is a Christian marriage here. And it's an interesting question then in terms of what was Magneto's ethnicity as an inmate of Auschwitz. So the primary ethnicity and religious group in Auschwitz was, of course, Jews. But there were also Soviet prisoners, there were Polish prisoners, and there were Romanis as well. Inmates. Those were the major groupings in Auschwitz. So it's not made explicit who exactly Magneto was or what his identity was in the camp at this point and in this story. It's just hinted at, yes. And great artwork here by John Bolton on these panels. And then a fatal decision. But he also had an insatiable hunger for knowledge, coupled with a wildfire intelligence, which soon outstripped the best that simple highland existence could offer. So, sadly, reluctantly, excitedly, he bade the village farewell and took his family eastward, into the Soviet Union, hoping to win a place at university, and through that education, the best possible future for his family. Eventually, they came to the Ukrainian city of Vinnytsia, the biggest they'd ever seen. All the way Anya watched the world with wide-eyed fascination, a smile on her face, a cheerful greeting, bubbling delightedly to everyone she passed. Her questions never stopped, bursting from a sense of wonder that awed him, and made him vow repeatedly that he would never allow the world to make her suffer as he and Magda had. Must you go? His wife asks him. Anya was his hope, his talisman. She made all he had endured worthwhile. And he says to his wife Magda, "We need food, and work is the only way to get it. The way people look at us, it makes me afraid," she says. "We're strangers, that's all. They're not used to country bumpkins, that's why they stare. I wish we'd never left the mountains, we were safe there," she says. "Magda, have you forgotten my promise? With me you'll always be safe. I'll be back this evening, Anya. Look after your mother till then." "Yes, Papa, I shall," she says as she hugs her father as he kneels down to meet her at her height. Again, tremendous art here by John Bolton. The expression on the faces, the costuming, the period costuming, the late kind of mid to late 40s. Excellent work by the artist. The ticking clock. It's after 3 a.m. and Magneto is thrashing around in his sleep and even calling out no. He tries to wake but cannot. Vinnytsia had been levelled by both armies, German and Russian, so there was more than enough construction work to go round. Unfortunately, even in a socialist workers' paradise, in quotation marks, there are always those more than willing to exploit any opportunity for profit. "So, this is less than half the money you promised me," Magneto says to his boss. "I deducted my commission," says the boss. "You want work, comrade? Do things my way." "You've no right," says Magneto, "and you obviously don't want another job." And here in the foreground, we see this metallic crowbar hovering, and it smashes the wood behind the boss's head. "Holy Peter," he cries out, "how did you do that?" "No need for threats, comrade. No cause for violence. I'm a reasonable man. You made your point. Here, take it. Every ruble, all you've earned. And Magneto thinks, as he takes the rest of his money, the crowbar, I was so angry I wanted to lash out at him. Did I somehow make it move just by thinking about it? Impossible. Madness. Yet how then do I explain what happened? So this is the first manifestation of his mutant power, it would seem. Not in puberty, not in his teenage years, but a little later when he's a fully grown adult. So unusual that. And he says, or he thinks to himself as he returns to their lodgings in the town, I must tell Magda if I do possess some fantastic extra human ability. And then he realizes the inn. Magda, let me pass, he calls out as he pushes his way through the crowd. Out of my way, let me through. Anya, he calls out for his daughter. Innkeeper, my wife, my child, where are they? And the innkeeper says, inside. So he goes into the inn and the fire is raging. And his wife explains that Anya is up in their room. She left her sleeping when she went shopping for supper, but the fire, it's too hot, she can't get to her. And she says to Magneto, our daughter, she's trapped, we have to save her. We'll do her no good if we kill ourselves in the process, he says with a cooler head. You get outside, I'll find a way. The stairs burn through, collapsing. Nowhere to hide, no time to run. Death seems certain, but the flames never touch them. So he calls out, and there's this protective magnetic bubble around him. We, the reader, know what it is. He feels a terrible pressure behind his eyes, an ecstatic electricity coursing through the whole of his nervous system, and the air about them turns solid. Barrier to both the fire and its falling wreckage. A miracle, he realizes. You did this? She asks. I must have. And if this power can protect us, well, maybe it can save Anya. So they avoid this falling is it door or something. I pray it can save our child Anya as they go out onto the street. And she's up at the window, peering out and calling for her father. There's a fire in my room. Papa, I can't get away. I'm scared. Help me, as the fire begins to reach her. So he calls out to her, be brave, sweetheart, I'm coming. And then he thinks, but how do I make this power work? Do I desire a thing with all my soul? And somehow the power makes that wish come true. So he's no idea how to access or use his powers because they've only manifested. And then this happens. He's grabbed by these police. There he is, grab him. What are you doing? You're under arrest, comrade, for extortion and assault. No, you can't, my daughter, please, he cries out. Papa, the fire, I'm burning. This is no good. And the police beat him down with their batons. Resist, officers of the state, will you? Better teach this dog a proper lesson, Dimitri. Please, my daughter, he cries out, and Magda there held back by one of the policemen. And here's this treacherous, sneaky rat boss mocking Magneto. Tis, 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 too bad, comrade. I offered an honest wage for an honest day's work, but you went and got greedy. Now you pay the price. So Magneto says, you lying. And then there's a scream. That scream, my child's done no harm, I beg you, for the love of heaven, somebody please help me. Waste of breath, comrade. Nobody here will risk life or freedom for an obvious enemy of the state. And he looks at him. This guy looks like a cross between Lenin and Stalin, in fact. I'd say that's deliberate on Bolton's part. And this is a horrific panel where the body of the burning child leaps from the window, and the crowd here in silhouette, just watching, nobody saying anything. And this guy, condolences, comrade, for your tragic loss, but you know you've only yourself to blame. And then Magneto just goes wild, shouting out, no, no, no. And then this final black panel. And what's he done? What's happened? Well, we've got these silent 3 panels in a row. His face in grief. And this is a horrific panel where he's kneeling over the burnt body of his daughter. Really pathetic. The burnt limb here of her, limbs of her arm. Terrible, really awful. And here on the ground in front of him, and everyone is dead around him. And the fire's out too. And Magda is shocked. You, she whispers, you killed them all. And she starts to tear at her hair. Because of them, our Anya is dead. They deserve no less. You threw lightning from your eyes, she says. I've powers, Magda. They rescued us. They might have saved Anya. Instead, they avenged her. You are not human. Far more than human, I suspect, better than human, I vow, he says. Come, wife, let us lay our daughter to rest and leave this place. No, I can't, I won't, not with you, she cries out. Magda, you're not the man I loved. You've become a monster, as she runs away from him, holding her head in shock. The louder he called, the faster, more desperately she ran. She never looked back. And then we're back in the present, in Paris. And what's this light at the corner of the panel? Magda, he cries out. Magda, Magda, Magda. Oh God, oh my God, I had forgotten how much that moment hurt. I tried to follow, but my outburst had left me so weak I could barely stand. And then the secret police came. I was forced to hide. I never saw her again. She loved me as I did her. Yet when she beheld my mutant power in all its terrible glory, she no longer saw the man, her husband, the father of her child. There was only a monster. And then he looks out his window and the light is emerging from there. What's happening across the way? A fire. Could the smell of smoke have prompted my dream, he thinks. Great shadows on the back muscles here. On Magneto by Bolton. This is really excellent anatomical work. Osakura, my daughter, and I were trapped. For the love of heaven, somebody please help us. So we have a parallel to the original situation he found himself in with his own wife and daughter decades previous. And he thinks as he closes the curtains, the fire brigade will not reach them in time. They've no hope of rescue. A pity. And he looks down, but no concern of mine. I care only for my own people. Homo sapiens, superior, mutant kind, they are merely human. And is he going to leave it at that? And this is the turning point in Claremont's characterization of Magneto, his journey from villain to redemption. Last page. And the woman cries out with her daughter, be brave, chérie, have faith. I'm scared, Mama. It's so hard to breathe. Mama, I don't want to burn. You won't, ma petite. I promise now. Close your eyes and hold me tight. And she thinks better to jump than fry. So we're going to have a rerun of what we've just witnessed with Anya. The mother thinks perhaps my body will shield my babies from the impact. And then someone breaks in through the wall. The wall exploding inwards. Is the building collapsing? And it's Magneto in his costume, but note, without the helmet. Don't be afraid, madame. I'm here to help. This is a bubble of solid magnetic force. Now he knows what it is. Please step in beside me. It will protect you and lower us all safely to the street. And the woman asks, is Monsieur an angel, Mama? Or sorry, the daughter. Is this a miracle? And he thinks, would I had such skill a lifetime ago, little one, to save my own as I do you? If I had, he thinks, how much different the world would have been. And this man who's obviously the husband and father, says in French, bless you, monsieur. I can never repay you for the lives of those I cherish. And Magneto responds, actually, monsieur, you can, by telling the world how your family was saved by Magneto. Magneto the terrorist, Magneto the supervillain, Magneto the mutant. Remember me always, monsieur. I could have let them perish, but I chose life. And the man says, you may be all those things, you said, monsieur, and more besides, but first and foremost, you've proved yourself a man, as Magneto moves away in his magnetic bubble. But remember and look, no helmet. The helmet he's taken off, and it symbolizes something about this character transition for him. Powerful, powerful issue. Tragic story, a tragic story, revealing that horrific, tragic history of Magneto's, but also hopeful in the end that he's a man, no matter his past, who's capable of redemption. And here we have the reprint of the original cover by Dave Cockrum to issue 104. And here we go again with the back cover by John Bolton to A Fire in the Night. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on the backup story, A Fire in the Night, to Classic X-Men number 12. If you did, please like the video on YouTube. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.